One may consider Shadow to be not worth getting due to the fact that he comes and goes during most of World of Balance. But if you ask my opinion, he's definitely well worth getting for World of Ruin because he's actually one of the better party members. Probably not to mention having well balanced stats, but also probably the most evasive character that the player will have access to. And plus, it would definitely help to have Gogo with another ability he can run with as well. Hey folks, I'm Storm331, back to doing some more streaming, and we're going to be covering Shadow from Final Fantasy VI. He's pretty much the mercenary slash ninja slash assassin in this game. And technically, probably the only party member that can be permanently lost if the player doesn't take certain courses to prevent that from happening. But technically, he actually does pretty darn well in the World of Ruin if you can keep him alive, as you see right here. So anyway, today we're going to go an overview of Shadow, go over his strengths and weaknesses, his recommend stat bonuses, his skills, and recommended in-game equipment. So without further ado, let's get started. Shadow is probably one of the three better party members in terms of well-balanced stats, though unlike Terra and Celeste, he's more geared towards speed and attack, strength in general. Of course, as you see right here, it's not really his basic stats that he initially starts off with due to the fact he's had played Esper training and such. But anyway, Shadow's initial stats are 39 on strength, which ties him with Edgar as being the 5th strongest returner in terms of strength, 38 speed, 30 stamina, 33 magic, HP gain of 51, and MP gain of 6. Of course, his MP gain is not very fantastic, though that can be remedied with Espers, of course. But with all those stats, Shadow does pretty darn well for himself in terms of pretty much everywhere around the board except for magic and stamina. But his magic is a lot more better than Edgar's, Sabin's, Setzer's, and even Locke's and Cyan's. So this actually keeps him from being put into the same group as them. But he does have stiff competition with a large amount of the other party members that are more geared for magic, of course. Thanks to these, he could definitely fill a role of a mixed attacker in general, and he could do pretty well in both of those categories. So in regards to recruiting Shadow, in the World of Balance, he joins up 4 different times during the gameplay. You'll get to meet him initially in South Figaro, but he doesn't get to join you there. The first time that he does join you is during Sabin's scenario, where you meet him at the house on the Veldt. And when you speak to him, he'll agree to assist Sabin to lead him to Domo Castle, where the Imperial Army is currently invading it. And from there, he'll pretty much, after the events of the camp, he'll either take off and leave you with only Sabin and Cyan, but it is possible to keep Shadow in your party to prevent him from running away. The only times he will not run away in battles are those that involve back attacks, surround, or side attacks. So as long as you engage in those battles, Shadow will be still in your party. He will not leave during those situations, but in normal battles, he will. And it is possible to keep Shadow on the team for the rest of the Phantom Train. He will not leave during that part. And if you manage to keep him with your party up until you get to Barren Falls, he'll take his leave from there. The second time Shadow does join, though, is pretty much after Terra gets turned into transforms and flees the party, and the party's searching for her. You can recruit him at Kolinj pub for 3,000 gil. This is actually considerably one of the worst times to recruit Shadow, because Shadow is actually meant to be with your party up until the party rescues Terra. If you do try to recruit him after you find her and try to go to the Opera House, he will leave your party during the opera scenes. This can be bad news because you'll be down 3 party members for your trip to the Imperial Lands, and if you have any Espers equipped to him, he will take off with that until he rejoins you the 3rd time. So by all accounts, do not recruit Shadow during your search for Terra or trying to go to the Imperial Lands. Shadow's 3rd time of joining a World of Balance will occur pretty much when he's hired by General Leo from the Gestalian Empire, and he will remain in your party up until the events of the Burning House in Thamasa. So basically, that'll be your earliest time to get spell training for Shadow, and probably a one or two level up bonuses while you're at it, unless you decide to keep him at the same party level as everyone else. The fourth time that Shadow does join is during the floating continent. He will pretty much remain with you. He will not run away from you until until the party defeats ultimate weapon. So he'll be available throughout most of the floating continent until you fight ultimate weapon. Basically, if you do leave, once he leaves and you return to the blackjack to rearrange your party, he will not be waiting for you when you return. So basically, make sure you have all the party members you're going to be bringing for the finale of the World of Balance, because he will take off right after you defeat all the weapon. Now, before you can leave the floating continent, it is possible for Shadow to be permanently lost for you for the rest of the game, and he will ask for the party to wait for him so he can rejoin up with you and escape. Now, the clincher is that you're on a clock timer of 5 to 6 minutes, so you need to make it to the end of the east side of the floating continent and defeat Napara, and then once you give him the option, you choose to wait. Now, Shadow will not appear as long as you stay in one place up until 5 seconds left. So once 5 seconds are left on the clock, that's 0005 to give you a general ideal. And once that happens, if your party's still in the place where they're standing or around that area, he will appear and he will be saved. But if you choose to jump and go to the airship without him, he will die regardless. So if you want Shadow to be on your team for the World of Ruin, I'd strongly recommend waiting for him, because having more party members will be definitely beneficial. This also, if you do choose to let Shadow die on the floating continent, Gogo will not have access to the throw command when you optimize his skills at the status screen. So that's also another thing to keep in mind if you plan to have Gogo use the throw command. But anyway, in the World of Ruin, if you do keep Shadow alive, you'll need to go to the Cave on the Veldt, and you'll find him right thereafter and combat the Behemoth King, defeat him, and then you'll automatically be taken back to Thamasa. Once the scenes are over, just leave Thamasa, come back in, and one of the NPCs near the burning house will tell you that he went to the Colosseum to look for the Agichi sword. So basically, that weapon is also found in the Cave of the Veldt. So when you activate the switch to move the rocks, go further south in that room to find the chest with the Agichi, and then once you rescue Shadow, go to the Dragon Colosseum, wager that, and you'll fight Shadow. So any party member can take on Shadow. One thing to keep in mind in the Pixel Remaster version is that Shadow has a lot more HP when you fight him, because in past versions, he'll have whatever HP he's currently at his current level. So it'll be a lot difficult to defeat him, but it's still a pretty easy fight since he won't have any gear and equipment. So once you defeat Shadow and see the cutscene after that, you'll be permanently in your party up until the game's ending. So even to this day of age, we still don't know whether or not Shadow actually died at Kefka's Tower or somehow cheated death and basically survived. But that's a story that only the developers know, and I'm not going to go pushing my luck on that. So anyway, Shadow's personal ability is Throw. So basically, when Shadow uses Throw, anything he throws at the enemy is considered unblockable and ignores defense. So this is actually a very useful ability for Shadow to have. Not only does he get access to ninja weapons like shurikens, fumo shurikens, pinwheels, but he also gets elemental scrolls, which are still retain their Aga effect damage, like Final Fantasy V did. So this makes Shadow very useful to throw those scrolls, in addition to water. Scroll being the only one way to get water damage on enemies. It is possible for Shadow to have access to every elemental weapon to throw for elemental weakness exploiting. So with huge investment towards purchasing them in bulks, it is possible for Shadow to basically target every enemy with their status weaknesses. So basically, you can get Flame Tongues, Ice Brands, and Thunder Blades from swords. If you get poison, you can get Poison Rod from rods for poison. You can also get Tridents, which are spears that deal water damage. Gravity Rods for Earth damage, Holy Rods for Holy damage, and of course, if you load up on Sakura's, he will get access to wind damage. So basically, if you're able to save up enough money to purchase those in 99s, which can be time consuming and a lot wasteful on Guild, this can enable Shadow to basically deal a lot of damage. One thing to keep in mind is that when you use the items to throw, that's taken out of the inventory. Of course, Shadow can also throw any non-elemental weapons at enemies. The weapons that he can throw are basically daggers, swords, spears, rods, throwing weapons, and even gambling weapons. So this makes Shadow a pretty effective fighter, and if you don't have any use for anything, he can definitely deal high damage with most. There are a few caveats as to what he can throw. Valiant Knife and Ultimate Weapon cannot be thrown, so don't even bother trying to throw those. Those are very rare weapons, and thankfully the game prevents you from doing so. Believe it or not, you cannot throw flame, ice, and thunder rods, even though those can be used for elemental damage as well. Through breaking them. With throwing weapons, Shadow has no problems. He can throw basically boomerangs and even chakram weapons as well, like Full Moon or Rising Sun. With gambling weapons, he cannot throw the dice or the fixed dice. So there are a few caveats to throwing the weapons in general. One funny thing, though, is that if he tries to throw the heal rod, he will throw it at himself. So I don't know if that heals him or damages him doing that, because I never really throw that in general. But technically, with Shadow's best evasion skill being 28 on default, so if you were to equip equipment that can basically give him a high amount of evasion as well as magic evasion, he can turn into a very defensive fighter in general. So let me see if I can pull this off. So we're going to take the current relics he has equipped and equip Cypher Capes. You can also do this with White Capes too. So basically, if you were to give him 2 Cypher Capes or even White Cape with that, well, technically it won't give him very high evasion, it only boosts magic evasion. But if you give him that or prayer beads, prayer beads can also be broken as well if you don't want to prioritize magic evasion. But you can definitely push Shadow's overall evasion to either 68 or even probably 88 with the prayer beads in conjunction with the Cypher Cape. So this makes him actually a very good evasive tank. For the most part, but of course, if you want to build up his magic evasion, 2 Cypher Capes can also work in your favor. Of course, the gear that I do have is probably not would not be the recommended because I don't have Jinjai armors. But anyway, if you do get his best equipment, the Kage Nunai is pretty much his best weapon. You'll get that at the Cultist Tower. This does allow him to randomly affect stop on enemies, inflict stop on enemies, which can be somewhat useful. For shields, you can go either way. Circlet will pretty much work best for Shadow, unless you want to prioritize his strength. With Circlet, he gets 2 strength, 1 agility, 3 stamina, and 4 magic. Of course, he gets even a bigger strength boost with Jinjai armor, with +5, not to mention he'll get 3 on magic and stamina, and probably 4 on agility. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I looked up Jinjai armor. You can also use Black Garb for his second best armor until Jinjai Jinjai armor is available. Wagering any of the animal suits that you do have can basically help you get you up to Jinjai armor. So if you're into the Dragon Colosseum wagering thing for good gear, this is probably the best way to get Jinjai armor for him. In my opinion, Jinjai Shield is very great overall. This gives him 20 plus evasion, in addition to magic evasion, plus 50 extra on defense and 54 on defense. If you have any spare Thunder Shields, you can steal those as rare steals from Mood Suits in Kefka's Tower and wager them in Dragon Knight Coliseum. You can get Jinjai Shields for most of the playable party in general. So this is actually very great for characters that are suffering from evasion. Not to mention this actually makes Shadow a lot more evasive in general. One noble helmet that you can get is the Priest Mitter. that also gives him another evasion boost in addition to MP gains. So if you want to prioritize giving Shadow some pretty good evasion early on, it's probably a good idea to get that. One honorable exception with shields, I don't have it with me at the moment, but if you get the Tortoise's shield, he can be a lot more evasive. Normally, you don't equip these unless your party is an imp, and this ignores optimal setups, by the way. But he'll get more evasion if you equip Tortoise shields. So usually that's more recommended for anyone that's going to be using imp setups. But Shadow can basically make full use of the Tortoise shield. So that's also another honorable mention, in addition to very good weapons. So Shadow, along with Gao, in terms of stats, he definitely wants to prioritize both strength and magic. He does have a serviceable 31 magic for the most part, but has very high strength. Thanks to the fact that he can use elemental scrolls, it's definitely a good idea to punch up his magic and strength whenever possible. You could definitely would recommend getting his MP gains up to speed because he does have a very low MP like Sabin does, as well as Cyan. So that's not a bad idea to boost up. Of course, having more agility is not a bad thing for Shadow. That'll give him more turns to get access. And if you want to give him a little bit of stamina for instant death protection and healing from regen, that could be a little bit of a good idea, though just don't focus it so much, since it does boost poison and sap damage for the most part. So anyway, that concludes my guide for Shadow. And I hope this guide helps players such as newcomers and beginners get into Final Fantasy VI. It's definitely well worth playing, especially if you never played it originally on its original release back in 1994. And Shadow is definitely one of the more better party members in general, not only for any form of combat, but very, very good evasive tank if you're willing to invest towards that. Not to mention, he can be immune to all status elements if you give him the momentum ring and ribbon in general. And if you're going for offense damage, he can definitely make full use of hero rings, at least one of them, or put more towards Giga Glove or earrings for either more physical or magic damage. But either way, Shadow is actually a very awesome party member to have in Final Fantasy V, even though, despite the fact his join time is horrendous in World of Balance, but it's definitely well worth rewarding players that do go out of their way to keep Shadow alive for the World of Ruin. You will not regret that decision when you do that. Anyway, Locke's going to be our next character to go over for the guides. I will try to have that up Saturday as soon as I can. Later today, we'll be playing Xenoblade Chronicles X Definite Edition. Once I get home, purchasing the game from GameStop, as well as getting my lunch out of the way. And once I get back, we'll get started on a very long session of Xenoblade Chronicles X later today. So anyway, we'll have this guy highlighted and exported to YouTube. So be sure to check that out when it comes out eventually. And I will catch you all later. If you do like the content that I'm putting out, feel free to sub to my YouTube channel, as well as give me a sub and follow.